Students, we are starting our first chapter in chemistry, matter in our surroundings. First, we will see the definition of matter. Anything which has mass and occupies space is called matter. Everything in this universe is made up of matter. Example, the air that we breathe in, the food we eat, the clouds, stars, plants, animals, water, etc. Each and everything that you see around us is known as matter. Next, we will see the physical nature of matter. There are two physical nature. First one, matter is made up of particles. Now to understand this, we have to perform an activity. We have to take a 100 ml beaker, fill half of the beaker with water and mark the level of water. Dissolve some salt in the above beaker with a glass rod. Observe the change in the water level. So in this activity, we have to take a 100 ml beaker, fill half of the beaker with water, then dissolve a spatula or a spoon of salt into it, and then stir it nicely with a glass rod and observe the change in the water level. So here our observation is water level remains the same. From this experiment, we can conclude that the water level remains the same because when we dissolve salt in water, the particles of salt get into the space between the particles of water. Any substance, if a solid has to dissolve in a liquid, the particles of the solid or the salt here has to get into the space between the particles of water. Then, as a result, the water level remains the same. Thus, we can conclude that matter is made up of particles. Here, water is made up of particles as well as salt, which is dissolved in water, that is also made up of particles. So, this is an activity to make us understand that matter is made up of particles. The second physical nature of matter is particles of matter are very small. To understand this concept, we have to perform another activity. For that, we can take 2 to 3 crystals of potassium permanganate. 2 to 3 crystals of potassium permanganate. Potassium permanganate crystals are purple or violet in color. And we have to take 2 to 3 crystals of potassium permanganate and dissolve it in water taken in a 100 ml beaker. This first 100 ml beaker, it is labeled as A. So we took potassium permanganate crystals and we dissolved it in water taken in the 100 ml beaker. Now the color of our solution is purple. Now take out 10 ml of the solution from beaker A and transfer it into 90 ml of clean water taken in beaker B. And then again stir the solution well. After some time we can see and note down the color of the solution in beaker B. Now again take 10 ml of the solution from beaker B and pour it into 90 ml of water that is taken in beaker C. Again note down the color change of the solution. Continue this process 5 to 8 times and keep on diluting the solution. As you keep on diluting the solution, you observe the changes. We can observe that as we keep on diluting the solution, the color of the solution becomes pale, that is from purple or violet color, it turns to light and a light pink. So our conclusion is that 1 crystal of potassium permanganate, it contains millions and millions of particles in it. Thus, we can conclude that the particles of matter, they are very, very small. So, a single crystal of potassium permanganate, it is made up of millions and millions of particles in it. And so, we can conclude that the particles of matter, they are very small. Next, we will see the characteristics of the particles of matter. There are 3 important characteristics for the particles of matter. First one, particles of matter have space between them. From the very first activity, we have understood that the salt is dissolved in water. How is the salt getting dissolved in water? Because the particles of salt have particles of the salt. It has to get into the space between the particles of water. As a result, what happens? See, the salt is dissolving in water. So it is very clear from our very first activity that particles of matter have space between them. Now, our second activity is a second characteristic of a particle of matter is particles of matter are continuously moving. For that, we have to perform another activity. We have to put an unlit incense stick in the corner of your room. Unlit incense stick means, actually what do you mean by incense stick? It is agarbatti stick, and we have to it should not be lighted, okay, and then we have to keep it in the corner of your classroom. Now I'm asking you a question: how close do you have to go to get the smell of that incense stick or agarbatti? Now, you know very well that you have to go very closer to it, then only you will get the smell of the incense stick or agarbatti. Now, light the incense stick and then observe what happens. Once you lit the incense stick, the fumes from the incense stick, it will mix with the air, and as a result, the smell of the incense stick reaches the student who is sitting in the other corner of the classroom. So, what is your observation? We get the fragrance of the incense stick which will slowly fills up the room. That is your observation. Now, why it is happening? What is the reason for that? The particles of matter, they are continuously moving. For example, the fumes that is coming out from the incense stick, it is continuously moving, and then as it is moving, it possesses kinetic energy. So any moving particle, it possesses an energy, and that energy is known as kinetic energy. Now, what happens here is that when we light the incense stick, the temperature is increasing. As the result, as the temperature is increasing, the kinetic energy of the particle is increasing. So what happens? The speed with which the particle is moving is increasing. As a result, the particles of matter intermix on their own with each other by getting into the space between them. Okay, and this process is known as diffusion. Now we will see the definition of diffusion. The intermixing of particles of two different types of matter on their own is called diffusion. So, the third characteristic of matter is particles of matter attract each other. For this we have to perform another activity. Take an iron nail, a piece of chalk and a rubber band. So try breaking them by hammering, cutting as well as stretching. In which of the above three activities, above three substances, the particles are held together with greater force? What will be your observation? Your observation will be the particles are held together strongly in an iron nail than a rubber band or a chalk piece. So our conclusion is the particles of matter have strong force of acting between them. Any particle of matter is having a very strong force that is acting between them. It is this force that keeps the particles together. The strength of the force of attraction varies from one kind of matter to another. So, what is the strength of the force of attraction? It varies from one kind of matter to another kind of matter. So thus we can sum up the particles of matter has got three important characteristics. First one, particles of matter have space between them. Second one, particles of matter are continuously moving. And the third one, particles of matter attract each other. Thank you.